Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to SEMC's September virtual program, Planning for Collection Storage. My name is Zinnia Willits, and I am the Executive Director of the Southeastern Museums Conference, and my pronouns are she, her. A warm welcome to all our members joining us today, as well as those who may be new to the Southeastern Museums Conference, which we shorten to just SEMC. SEMC is a regional professional organization representing museums and museum staff in the 12 southeastern states, as well as the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. We have a membership of 2,000, over 2,000 now, and continue to grow. So please consider joining SEMC, where access to virtual programs is always free with membership, which starts at just $45. We're pleased to continue the 2024 virtual program series with part two of a discussion that we started back in May, focused on best practices, solutions, and ideas to create a sustainable and adaptable collection storage environment. As a former museum collections manager, I am excited to see this discussion continue. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge and thank today's program sponsor, Patterson Pope, a longtime SEMC partner and supporter. And through this sponsorship, we were able to offer free registration for all. Thank you also to today's speakers, Erica Haig, Kristen Orman, Stephen Mott, and Jean Riley, for taking the time to share their experiences with storage planning, and to Calvin James for moderating. Professional development is a year-round endeavor for SEMC, and we're appreciative of everyone's commitment to both present and to attend. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Heather Nowak, SEMC's Program Administrator, to review some session housekeeping information before we begin the discussion.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's program. As Zinnia mentioned, my name is Heather Nowak. My pronouns are she, her. Quickly before beginning, I'll take a few moments to cover those housekeeping items. If you need closed captioning, it is available. Simply click the CC button in your Zoom screen and enable the auto transcription feature. You can also download a full transcript of today's program by clicking more at the bottom of your Zoom screen, choose captions, and then view full transcript. The program today will be recorded and emailed to each of you. I'd like to take a quick moment to talk about our upcoming program. If you're attending SEMC 2024 in Baton Rouge, I'd like to take this moment to tell you about our annual Know Before You Go meetup via Zoom. Join the SEMC staff as we inform you of all the details and happenings that will take place at the annual meeting. Bring your questions and take the opportunity to get informed and equipped for a successful annual meeting. If you still need to register, the deadline is October 11th, so don't miss out. For today's webinar, we encourage you to introduce yourself and share in the chat. We will have a Q&A time following today's discussion, so be sure to ask any questions you have in the Q&A box. I will share a program survey towards the end of the program, so please take a moment to fill that out. And now it's my pleasure to begin the program by introducing today's moderator, Calvin James, Director of Marketing with Patterson Pope. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather and Zinnia. We always appreciate SEMC and our chance to partner with you guys. So good morning and welcome to everybody. Really excited about this is part two of our session talking about planning for collection storage. And in the first session, our esteemed panel did a great job of really talking through whether it's new construction or renovation, things that you ought to be considering as you're planning a project like that. Today, we get to dive into the specifics of solutions. And so we brought back that same panel. We have Erica Haig, who is the collections manager at Atlanta History Center. We have Stephen Mott, who is the curator of collections and interpretation at Florence Museum. And then two of our own, Jean Riley and Kristen Orman, who are reps and museum specialists. And so we're going to bring in Stephen and Kristen to get us kicked off. And as Heather said, drop in questions as we go, and we'll get to those at the end.
All right. Good morning. Can you guys see this, what I'm sharing?
We're seeing it in notes view, so just put it in presentation view so we see just the one.
Oh, So strange. Sorry, guys. Um, we're gonna start this again. This always happens to me. I am not the most savvy. So I'm hoping you're seeing it, and it says
Yep.
collection planning.
Yeah, we're
I
good.
am Kristen Orman, and I'm here with Stephen Mott, and we are. Gene Riley and I and Stephen and Erica are very excited to be here with you guys. And I just wanted to say I'm going to be a little nervous at first. It's going to slow down, and it'll go faster as we go. And let me see if my slides will change. All right. So to continue on the theme that we started, which was Stephen and Erica told the story from the perspective of museum, most of you guys. We're going to continue the story as storage specialists. And just to introduce what Jean and I do is we work with all types of businesses. We work or institutions. So evidence storage, athletic storage, industrial storage. We are walking into people's storage collections, all different things, and using the size and the equipment that we understand to design a storage system for you guys in museums. So we look at it from a different perspective, and we kind of want to move through it and work with you to make these decisions. Um, so hold on, sorry, I need to switch my screen up. All right, so where do you start? And one of the first things to do is you guys are all storage specialists of your collection. So you have a lot of the tools, you know what you're doing. What you really need is someone to help drill down and let you know what type of equipment is out there to do what you need to do to store your collection. So who do you work with? Um, you work with, I personally think you work with storage specialists, someone like us. And how do you find those folks is basically I would talk to the other people in SEMC. I would say, who are you working with? Who can help me? Use the resources you already have in this network to go ahead and make a call out there and say, how do I start? And when should you plan? I think you should plan when you realize your collection might be suffering due to the space or the type of equipment you're using to store it. I personally don't think you have to have a renovation in the works or a grant proposal that you're going to do, but when you realize it could be done better. But of course, if you have a renovation or you're getting a new site, it would be great to give yourself some time to start. And you need probably about, I think at minimum 2 months to get through the whole process. But I really like, and you'll see as we go forward, I like a lot more time than that. So I changed the way that I ordered this. So Jean and I have done this presentation live with SEMC, and I had the order of how you guys would work together or work with us a little bit differently. But I've been doing this now for like 15 years, and I've decided the best way to start is a survey. I want to see what you're storing. I want to understand your collection from the perspective of size, volume. I need to be able to get my hands around what you're storing. And since we work with all types of different types of storage, we look at it from a perspective of size. And then I'm just going to move to the next ones. So this is an example of a survey. I like to do a spreadsheet. I'm going to walk in, look at your space, look at where you're storing, hopefully walk around with you a lot. And then I'm going to put it in a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet tells me sort of, I start to learn the size, the volume, and the type. I start to understand how your collection needs to be stored, how much you have of certain pieces of your collection, and then we start discussing all the other parts of it. I think I surprised Stephen when we started our process, and I said, "Hey, let me come look at everything, and let me see what it is." Um, we have all these different colors and shapes, but this one piece right here, this is one of the survey documents that I use, is a great way to just understand what you guys have. And, oh, well, we'll go to the next step. And it's as simple as this. We're going to walk in, take the size, take images, try to remember what rooms we were in, and then put it into a regular order. All right, hold on, let's see. So this is step number 2, which is it's just going to be a ton of questions. I'm going to take your survey data. I'm going to sit in your office with you or on a Zoom meeting with you and talk about your collection and what we're trying to achieve, whether it be new construction, trying to fix what you have, what your requirements are, what the safety of it is, what the security of it, and how your collection may grow. And really, a big question is timeline. Um, and I was going to mention, we say this is session 2 of of these of these panels, and this is actually, to me, it's session 3. We actually did a presentation in the fall that we talked a lot about funding. So if you ever want to refer back to that, that gives you greater detail. But the most times I am getting calls from folks saying, hey, I've got a grant I have to submit in 2 months, or and we would like to work with you to understand the budget. When you have a capital project, what you're looking at is maybe your museum either wants to get a new space, wants to grow its space, and they have to understand the budget that they're gonna need to raise funds for. And that's one of the things we'll do. We work with you years ahead to understand the size of it. And really part of this is part of the collaboration, as you'll see further, is what is the source of your funding? How can we help you with that funding? I worked with the Avery in the past, and we came up with a design. It was all based on they started um, their project. Well, what they were having a renovation was just for HVAC. And in that, they realized they could do some adjustments with their collection. And so we came up with a big plan, and my client asked me to do the presentation for her board because she wanted them to understand what she was using the money for. So we're going to work with you whatever way to help you make these collection spaces work for you.
Yeah, I
And
think that, sorry to interrupt. I just want to sort of jump in right there to say that, um, when our museum was going through, this new construction, we built a new museum 10 years ago. Um, we were coming from, what I would consider now to be sort of a dark age of collection storage. We were just using wooden shelves and wire racks in any space that we could find. And so I didn't even know what the options were. We were facing this $13 million project, and I had no expertise. So when you're looking at your own project, regardless of what the budget is, I think for me, the biggest thing was developing a relationship with Patterson Pope. The consulting was a huge part of it because it's not just about who can sell you your your cabinetry, like your new storage equipment. I think there are other ways to get just the hardware, but I don't know that there are a lot of other competitors out there who are offering the consulting services that we got when we were working with Patterson Pope. And in the end, depending on what your procurement process is like, it's not always about who comes in with the lowest bid. Uh, because although your institution might be able to save some money in purchasing equipment for collection storage, what you're going to gain in working with a specialist is their expertise and that like level of personalized consultation.
thanks, Stephen. So one of the other thing, the next step is planning. So we'll take what we did in your survey and then try to understand the space that you're getting or moving into, and then creating a design that actually will safely, efficiently store your collection. And this this is the part where we're really training you how to look at these drawings because I know this is crazy looking from the outside. This is a bunch of brightly colored blocks. What does it mean? How do you look at it? You know, one of the things that we did and that we discovered working early with a new construction project is that we realized Stephen's room was about, there was a wall right here in plan. And we realized it wasn't big enough. So we went to the architects and said, hey, let's take over some space so that we could get the storage in that we needed because this is your big shot to get everything. But here's what you're going to look at. And then we're going to walk you through exactly what all these elevations mean. And say you have archive boxes. Well, now you've got to understand how many archive boxes are in your collection. Say you only have 40 of a certain size. Well, now I've shown you that on, say, this shelving right here, which is going to be one of these elevations right here, I'm able to store 50 boxes for you. So then we start to understand your growth and we understand how we're going to, where we want to invest in the storage plan in what type of collection you have, be it 2D, be it archives, be it a lot of textile. This is when we really have to get into the meat of what you're storing, how you want to store it, how it's going to grow. And then once we get through that part, I want you to take this and I want you to sleep on it. I want it to be yours for a long time. I don't want you to have to make a decision in a week. I want to describe how this works for you and also send you on site visits so that you can also understand what this means from a size perspective. Um, and also with our drawings, we will do 3D drawings, which hopefully can give you a better view and understanding of what it's actually going to look like when you put it all together. So I kind of love this slide because this is real life here. So this was the Gibbs, and this is the Gibbs installed. Hopefully, and this was Zinnia at the time, hopefully Zinnia understood, oh, okay, I see it. I see how my art rack's going to be. And then we worked through this. So it's kind of fun. I personally think it's my favorite thing is working on museums. So when I was setting up this presentation, I got to this slide, and this is actually my last three steps in one story. Um, and it's an interesting project. We started this project in 2008. This client was absolutely full in a room with static shelving. That means shelving that doesn't move. And they had Hollinger acid-free boxes for everything. So we basically measured every Hollinger box, and every one of these color-coded systems is how many of that size box they could store in that area. Um, and so this was the design for, well, this was 2008. So y'all can imagine they went for budgeting in 2008 and just it never happened. It just wasn't going to get budgeting. We loved the design. We kept it, we tweaked it a little bit over the following years. And then in 2007, sorry, 2017, my client came forward and she said, listen, I worked with this consultant who thinks that maybe if I unpack all my boxes and then we redo the design, that maybe I'll get funding. And so, so we had designed this from linear, like basically from a shelf size perspective. So now all of a sudden, all these things that were going to sit in all sizes of Hollinger boxes were now going to be unpacked. The other challenge is this room has an 8-foot ceiling and you have to be 18 inches from the sprinkler head. So how am I going to make all these cabinets work? Like, how am I going to make them tall enough that we can now unpack all the boxes and store them? So we got really inventive. These are the sprinkler lines right here, if you guys can see them. Um, and so what we did is these are all closed cabinets. They're all 7 feet tall. They're all 18 inches from the sprinkler head and they're all designed to hold her stuff unpacked. So to me, this is the story. It's plan, collaborate, revise. So we worked on this for 16 years and she will get it installed of November of this year. So we're here for the long haul. Last step is the most fun is the implementation when you get everything, and we're going to work with you. There's a lot of things that happen in a project that we're going to sit down and say, okay, this duct is now in play. We got to drop some shelving. We got to do this. We have some install issues that may come up. Um, it's fun. It's going to be really fun with this other one for 16 years further. But the biggest and the hardest part is you guys having to rehouse your collection in there because we may have decided in the interim to change how you currently store stuff. And that's what we do during the collaboration and the revision. You might decide, hey, I don't want all those boxes. I want to put them in cabinets. So this is a beautiful picture of systems that don't have anything in them yet. Um, so I am always in awe of all of my clients when they have to go and repack and rehouse everything and understand where everything goes. And we hopefully have created a plan with you to know where everything's going to go. So at least when you start unpacking, you know where everything's going to be in your collection. Thank you so much for your time. This is the end of my little part, which is, and I'm going to give you a summary, which is work with your storage specialist early. Just go ahead and get started. Even if you don't think there's anything out there, go ahead and start asking questions and understanding what's out there. We have phased projects, we've done small projects. Just start with that collaboration. Change is going to happen on what we're doing, and then projects of all sizes are welcome. And thank you guys for bearing with me. I'm more comfortable in front of a crowd so I could get a little feedback. So hopefully I didn't speak too fast. I'm excited to see Jean's part of the collection or part of the presentation. Oh, sorry, Jean.
Thanks, Kristen.
All right, thank you.
So, for my part of the presentation, we're going to go back to basics. We're going to do Storage 101. And I think we're missing some stuff here, Kristen. Are you there? Well, we're going to break this down into really four different categories for storage. First one being collection storage, which basically runs the gamut of what you're collecting and storing in systems. You know, it goes from artifacts, from pottery to artwork to documents to pictures and anything else. We do archives for box storage and record storage, textile for textile racks, and art storage. And the ultimate goal for you and us is to protect your collection and to also maximize your space. And that means, you know, not just wall to wall, but floor to ceiling. So if you can go up 10 feet, use 10 feet high shelving or racking or whatever you use and maximize what you have. Next slide. And rule number one in museum storage is you want powder coating painting on anything you buy. If you do powder coat paint, it will knock off gas, and that's what you want. I mean, that's on any system, whether it's a cabinet, it's shelving, whatever, that's what you want. We'll start out with four-post shelving, which is really the most common shelving used as far as static goes. You've got a lot of accessories, whether it's drawers, it's bin fronts, it's doors, what have you. You know, four posts is the way to go. You can have shelving in a four post system that can go from 225 pounds per shelf up to 350. So it'll carry the weight of most of the stuff you're going to have. If you're going to do something larger, like you see in the pictures down at the bottom, you want to use either a rack shelving or what we call wide span. It's a little beefier. It'll handle the weight. It's usually going to be a wider system than what four post is. And so you can put large objects on there comfortably. Next thing we talk about is cantilever shelving. Nope, go back. Cantilever shelving. And cantilever shelving is mainly used in a library or a book application because on a cantilever shelving that has two sides to it, they're independent of each other, whereas on four posts, they're not. So what you have on one side on four posts will be the same clearance on the other side, whereas on cantilever, you can adjust it from either side. And on cantilever shelving, you can do books, you can do textile racks like we have down in the bottom right corner. Top right corner, we have, archival boxes, the Hollinger boxes up on the close to us, that had documents in it. And then you have banker boxes down toward the end. And on the top left corner, we've got four post shelving with some accessories in there as far as a garment rod goes. So they have garments hanging up there, but they're utilizing, the height of the system to put Hollinger boxes up on the top. Down on the bottom is art racks. These are double-sided art racks that you can hang your artwork on either side. They can be mounted on a wall, and we'll show you some pictures here later to show you what, different systems we have. Erica, you got some comments?
Yeah, I think that it's just really important to think about what you have and what you're looking to store. And if you haven't done a survey or if you don't have a good idea, if you're new to your collection, for instance, or if you have a brand new large collection coming in that you're looking to house, do a quick survey and be like, is this something that's going to be boxed? Is this something that I want out on an open shelf? Do I need hanging storage? Am I going to roll this? Like, just think about all the different ways that you're going to need to store the materials and then talk with your representative about what the options are for those types of materials. If possible, show them the materials. I think that working with Gene has been great because sometimes he thinks of things that I don't think of that are perfectly safe and available options for the material types. It's just I haven't seen all of the options that exist out there, and he has. Something that's also great is Gene has relationships and people that work with Patterson Pope have relationships with other institutions near you, likely, that have these styles of shelving. And so if you want to go see them in person and see what they look like, put hands on them, that's something that usually is something that's doable. So I think that's all I got for right now.
Okay. Next slide, Kristen. So we're going to talk about four post shelving for quickly. The top left corner, you can see this is Delta Airlines, all three of these pictures. And the one on the left is archival boxes for records, for artifacts, what have you. And this system is 10 feet tall. So they're taking advantage of the height of the system as well as wall to wall. On the bottom, you can see where we've got archive boxes sitting on shelves, plus we got pull-out drawers. And you can do various sizes of pull-out drawers from 2 inches high to 8 inches high. And you want a good sturdy drawer to put your artifacts in on there. And you can get locks on it if you need to or without. The picture on the right are a lot of flight attendants' uniforms that we are storing. We put a garment rack in there. We have shelving above it for the hats and accessories that they had in it. We also put in locking doors so we can lock it up. And then the system actually goes up another 3, 4 feet above what you're looking at now that had archival boxes. So we wanted to take advantage of the height and everything up on top. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about, we've run out of space. We've got all this static shelving that we've built up in our rooms, and we've got artifacts and collections just in the hallway, in the aisles, and we want to, go to a bigger system. Well, that shelving that in storage systems that you have, whether it's cantilever shelving, whether it's cabinets, whether it's four posts, rack, whatever, we can put that on a carriage and utilize it. So what you're buying now, you can want to look down the road and say, hey, I can use this on a mobile shelving system. So You can have any kind of system that you want. We have powered systems. We have mechanical assist. Mechanical assist, you're hand cranking it. Powered, you're hitting that button and going. And so you can see on the right, we got two different kind of systems. We have four-post shelving up in the top right unit, and then on the bottom we have what we call wide span. So regardless of what your system is, we can do a gear ratio, so you're not really struggling to move that system. You can move it fairly easy. Once again, no off-gassing. You want to make sure your end panels where the handles are metal and powder coated. You don't want to do a laminate end panel on there because it's going to off-gas. Also, you want to look at your decking. You want to do either an MDF or what we call MDX board underneath because it's not off-gassing. We can also do a stainless steel deck that we'll show you here in a minute that doesn't off-gas. But you want to make sure that your decking is correct because that's the foundation of your system. As far as floor covering goes, you want another system. What you see coming up will be a rubber mat that we staple down to the flooring so you don't have glue under there, so it's not off gassing. Erica?
I just wanted to share too that depending on what your institution looks like and like where your storage is, all of these are good options for like thinking about what you need to actually get in and access the shelves, right? We really like the matting option. It helps us see if there's any changes or anything that's like pooling sometimes because we're in basements a lot of times and sometimes there is a lot of groundwater with like the upcoming hurricane. It's something that we'll be looking for. So like thinking about your decking options, talk through all the options with your rep. And if you don't know like what exactly you need, like ask. Like they're great about telling you and walking you through about what the options are and the pros and cons of it. So there's lots of options.
We've got systems at the History Center that are probably 25 years old that
Yes.
have that rubber covering on top of it. Works well, doesn't wear very much. And then down below is one of Kristen's applications where we've done a powder coat steel decking on top of that. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about flat files. And flat files, my kind of rule number one is don't go cheap because the glides on the side and a flimsy cabinet are not going to last you long. So if you buy a high quality cabinet, that cabinet's going to be around for a long time, whereas another one, you're going to have to replace it. So you might as well buy good to begin with. Once again, no off-gassing, want a quality system. The unit on the right is basically a flat file turned on its side, and it's actually out in the exhibit hall. And the one on the bottom left is actually at Emory Carlos Museum, and it acts as a storage system as well as a display item. They have artwork stored down in the shelves, but you have a glass top that locks that they can pull out and view the artwork there, and then also store underneath it. Next slide, Kristen. Now, our last one we're going to discuss is framed art. The system, there are various systems out there. The one on the left is what we call a modular art rack, and it pulls from front to back. It's double-sided. You can have different kind of screens that you can put on the back depending on what kind of weight you're going to use. The system on the right is just a high density system where we have carriage mounted art racks on there. And once again, remember, we can utilize your walls and hang this on the walls. And then the system down on the bottom left is a lateral movement system, kind of like the high density. It nests at the bottom, so it saves you space. And once again, it's a manual system and it's double-sided. You can see the different screens on the different pictures we have. The bottom one has a square pattern where we have a diamond pattern on the other two. And that's what I have for my part. Kristen?
All right, let me get my I don't know if I'll get my video back on. Oh, here we go. All right. So I wish that I could see all y'all's faces because I definitely do better when I can see how people are reacting to stuff because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to nerd out a little bit on this stuff because this is one of my favorite subjects, are museum cabinets. I've been working in the museum field for like 16 years, and these cabinets have become sort of they solve so many problems when you have a fragile collection, when you need to make sure you don't have. I have one client that had a huge infestation on their taxidermy, so now they had to freeze it, and now we're putting them in cabinets. These solve a lot of problems. It doesn't mean your entire collection needs to go in a cabinet, but it's a great place to start. So these are a couple pictures, and I'm running my own slideshow, which these are the bunch of reasons why I love the museum cabinets because it solves so many problems. When I speak about a museum cabinet, it's a sealed cabinet. So the one thing to know about that is most museum cabinets, the indoor air quality will not match the indoor air quality of the cabinet will not match the outdoor air quality of the collection space for 3 days. So say you have a huge problem with your HVAC, a really bad variation in humidity, at least for 72 hours, these cabinets are going to kind of protect your more fragile items. But all the other ones, we are definitely offering this presentation, so I'm not going to read to you guys, but big reasons, all of these, why we go to museum cabinets. Um, Sort of the basics. These cabinets, your botany cabinets, have not changed in years. They're holding what they're appropriately supposed to hold. So, they all are sealed, the latching system, they have pull-out work shelves. If you guys are in herbariums or that type of things, you know exactly what these are. So then the entomology cabinets, they're designed specifically for the cases. So we'll ask you early on, do you have Cornell? Do you have Smithsonian? How many do you want to store? And there are different types of cabinets. You can do 2 columns or 3 columns. You can do half height. It's kind of a nice, simple solution, pretty basic cabinet, though. Then we get into what has happened over the last like 15 years is other types of museum cabinets used to be set sizes. They kind of were massive. They were like 53 inches wide and 41 inches deep and sort of an odd size. And what people used to do is you designed, you designed your space to fit the cabinet. And now we are getting there, so many different suppliers are doing flexible cabinets, which you can now design the cabinet for your space, which makes a lot of difference, especially when you don't have much space. And then you can use it like this cabinet here, this little shorty. It's well protected. But you can roll it around and you can use it for display. The interesting thing is now these curative spaces that you guys have, a lot of people want to introduce the public to them. Come see what we're doing at this museum. Come see these spaces. So we can also use these cabinets to be sort of a show off space. I'm going to go to the next slide. You can have visual doors so that if you want to let a few people in, you can. You can let them in and they can look at your collection and understand it. But what is really great is now you have all these different sizes. So you can design it for your collection or you can design it for your space. Or we could decide to change how you do the collection and design it a certain way. And they don't have to be all these sizes. I have one cabinet that's for a client, and I think it's 7 foot wide. It's a little challenging with the doors, but it's an interesting solution. Um, so this is where I kind of really geek out. The fun thing about these cabinets is you can change them per your collection. So you can have trays, and if you have a tray, you can pull the whole tray out. Say you've laid out the bones of like a raccoon, and you want to keep it in the tray, but you want to bring it out to show someone that's training with you or something like that. You can pull out the tray if you want to. Now, We also have trays that will have stops on them. And those trays, it really becomes down, having stops or not having stops, I find is very much a collection manager's personal preference. And that's usually the first question I'll ask you is what kind of flexibility do you want with these trays? What kind of heights do you want with these trays? And let's discuss all the different options. Let's see if I have, right, I think it's the next picture. So also in these museum cabinets, it doesn't have to be things on shelves. Like this solution here is a pull-out rifle rack. So it stores them safely. You can have a little bit of storage above, and it's kind of fun to keep it that way. This shows you a tray, and these are all adjustable within a 2-inch increment, which is wonderful. And this is also showing you in this cabinet, we have a center divider. So the lower part of the cabinet can have small trays, and then we can put shelves up above. So because you're not going to be once you get above like 48 inches high, you don't want a drawer or tray because you can't bring it out and look down into it. So we usually will use that space for shelves above. And this shows you a little bit of a difference. I talk about these cabinets a lot, so I've learned a lot. And I've learned a lot also revisiting my clients saying, what do you like? What would you change? So this client right here is Noah, and it turned out to be perfect where we did the center divider and she has small trays that she can pull out. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, guys. This this cabinet, these are drawers. And this client really loves the deep drawers because it's so easy to pull the drawers open and to make them accessible when you want to come in and check on something. Now, we can talk a little bit about the budget. The drawers, the full extension drawers cost more than the trays. So we talk about how we want to design your cabinet based on your budget. I wish somebody could pop up and just ask me questions right now. Um, and this is kind of a fun idea. So now you used to only have one option for your handles. It was this kind of round thing, the latching system that you turn like this. And if you had a lot of cabinets, it hurt your hands after a while. This is a new type of lock where you pull this out of the housing and it winds and closes and feels the same way, but it's more comfortable for your hand. And what I do like here is this client, we ordered a combination lock. So they have a key, but they can actually set a combination lock if they have a cabinet in an area they want to keep secure. And as you can tell, this was the taxidermy collection. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Would love to hear your questions.
Yeah, so if you have questions, drop them in the Q&A now, and our panelists will be glad to answer them. If you can't see the Q&A button, hit more, and then you'll find Q&A there. So Gene and Erica, if you want to jump back in as well.
I did notice, Calvin, there was a question in the chat from LeClaire. She says, we are considering writing a grant to redesign our small collection storage space. Is there a consultation fee for a Patterson Pope representative to help us decide what would work? What would we need to do to make a system work, etc.? So do you have a consultation fee?
We do not. We do expect if we're working with you, we don't want our drawings shared with people outside of our group. Because it's a lot of work to do our drawings. So we'll talk through it all. But I get that question a lot because, we do spend a lot of time kind of coming in and doing it. Personally, for me, if you call me about a museum, I'm going to come like lickety split. It's just fun, but we don't. We just kind of ask that you respect our work and it's not shared outside of our group that we're working with.
Great. We've got more questions. What kind of weight can the cabinets handle? We have some heavy bronze and stone sculptures.
Actually, I just answered this. Now, with the trays and drawers, I read up. It's like I think I just did this with the South Carolina Museum. I can't. They were doing like cannonballs, and I'm not going to be able to hold more than 200 pounds of cannonballs in a drawer. Um, but we can look at that because the shelves can hold quite a bit more. So depending upon how many pieces are going to be sort of in a level, we can figure out, are we going to do it with a drawer? Are we going to do it with a tray? Or are we going to do it with a shelf? But yeah, I was looking at cannonballs and we decided we could only put like four in a drawer. It's a good question.
We have a lot of sculpture pieces, surprisingly, since we're not an art museum, as well as large furniture pieces. And I think the wide span can take a lot of weight, surprisingly a lot. They can spec out what fits your space and sort of show you how many items you might be able to put there. If you know how much, like a ballpark, the pieces weigh, that's always super helpful to have when you go through the space and talk with them. So.
Great. Thank you. Next one is in the early stages of a collections project, how do you determine how much square footage you will need when you haven't figured out the cabinet or the rack details yet?
I'll grab this and then Jean, if you want to do it. With the survey, when I'm looking at your size, I end up drawing it out to understand it the
Mhm.
best. It's the only way I feel really comfortable. I actually had a company call me about a records room, a huge records room, and I had to draw it out before I could tell the architect it could be a certain size.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you get the room, sketch it out, see what kind of artifacts and what you're storing and how big a shelving you need. Because, you don't have to have a system that has, everything 36 inch and deep. You could have one that's 36, one's that's 48. So I'm like Kristen, I like to sketch it out on a pad and see what I have first, and then you can tell.
Great, thanks. Um, Here's one that's is kind of tossed out to the group. It might be good to get Erica's perspective on this. I'm curious how others have approached naming conventions and creating locations with a new facility or new equipment when moving collections.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things where we usually start with whatever architectural drawings that you might have. Once you have room numbers, which are probably going to be set like at an organization or institutional level, you can take that room number. It can be the precursor. So for the museum building here, we have AH, which is Atlanta History Center, shortened to two letters. We have also McElroy Hall, which I am currently in, and that's shortened to MH. And so then that's the first part, MH dot or AH dot, signifying which building it's in. Then the room number. So for stacks one, for instance, in McElroy Hall, it's MH dot S1. And then we have the range, the bay, and the actual shelf. So it's a five-part number system for us. And you can even add to that box one, box two, whatever you need to add. For the drawers, we usually keep just going in order all the way down and treat them like we would shelves. If you have mobile things, I find that it's easiest to give them sort of unique identifiers if that's a name or if that's something else that is easy to identify. So we saw some of those rolling cabinets, which are awesome. I want some of those. But those might be something that if they're mobile and if they're going to be taken outside of this space, for instance, that might be something that we name. We like to name our carts. So we have like Joan of Cart. We have Mario Kart, uh, all sorts of things like that. And so it's a unique identifier. They're on the cart itself, and that's something that we know when they're going somewhere or where they are, that everyone can reference that name and know where those items are. So
Joan of Cart. That is awesome. All right,
we
next
have a
one.
list of
Nice.
30. So if you need ideas, just reach out.
Yeah, there you go. What are the average costs for cabinets? Have they gotten cheaper, or do you see the cost reducing in coming years? And what are the best companies you suggest purchasing them from?
Ooh. We decidedly have favorites, so but I don't want to be too favorited here. They are not going down. They're powder coated steel. Um, so the price of steel has gone up over the last like 6 years. That is what it is. What is wonderful is we could look at what you're putting in it to help with your collection and maybe mitigate how many you need to buy or that type of thing. I would, and, and I think I counsel my customers to talk to other people and get references about who is supplying your cabinets. I think that's the best way to do it. Of course, we have a favorite.
I think
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine to share, Kristen.
So we are Space Saver purchased Viking. I don't know what, like 10 years ago, Gene. And then they came up with this it's just so flexible now. It used to be I was stuck with a certain size, and now it's just so flexible and easy. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, because you can reconfigure, your cabinets, whether it's pull-out drawers, if it's trays, it's, fixed shelves. I mean, there's really no set price. It just depends on how you're filling it out and what the guts look like.
Yeah.
Thanks. And I see your note, Erica. Yeah, if for if you raise your hand, just put your comment in the chat. We're not don't have the ability right now to bring other folks in for it. Um, let's see. Here's a question that I'll answer. Do we cover South Dakota? I'll just pop my camera on real quick. We do not. So Patterson Pope, we are from the base of Florida up through Ohio and some of the states kind of a little bit to the west of us. And so we cover generally that territory, but we will be glad to connect you, any of you. So in the survey, you'll have an opportunity if you need some help or want some help, regardless of where you are. We'll connect you with a network of Space Saver area contractors that we know and work with. So, but if you're in our states, absolutely, we have reps throughout our territory who have lots of museum experience, like Kristen and Jean. So glad to help there. I believe that. So Heather, I see your if you had a comment, you want to add that in. I believe
Yes,
that was
ma'am.
it for our. Well, no, sorry, I'm missing Q&A now.
Yeah.
So let's jump to Q&A. Do the storage solutions take into account building limitations? We are a historic building, and I would like to update storage. I'm not sure how the building can safely hold.
I'll kind of jump in on this one. The Avery Center here in Charleston is a very old building, and they really can't add high density systems up on the second and third and fourth, those floors. So we've had to work around those parameters. So we will actually that's one of the biggest issues we start discussing early on. Because if you're in your old building and we can't put it on an upper floor, we're going to figure out other ways to help your storage.
Yeah, you always want to get your floor load, you know, looked at to begin with. And the key is, if you have an older building and it has an elevator, you want to be near that elevator shaft because that's really the strongest part of your building.
Great, thank you. Here's one. I'm beginning a position at this facility as the collections curator, so I'm in the process of learning the collection here. Is there a copy of the survey form for a museum to use prior to a consultation?
You- Mine is just a spreadsheet, but I did read in the commentary there are some things that can help you. I think it was something that was on the IMLS website.
Yeah, there's the CAP assessment program, which you can apply for. I believe that they do have copies of what the assessor is going to come through and look at. Assessors can always alter those slightly to fit their specific things that they're looking for. But that's something that there does exist a form somewhere. I can try to find a link and pop it in. One sec.
That'd be great. Hey, I'll actually plug here too. There on our website, and we'll include this and
Oh
stuff that we
yeah.
send out to you guys. We do have a tool called Storage 101, Museum Storage 101. That's just kind of soup to nuts, everything that you ought to be thinking about and considering. So that it's not a survey form, but that there's also some good help in that resource. All right, for framed storage, and I know Heather will wrap up here and let you wrap up, and then we can continue with Q&A afterwards, by the way, gang, if anybody else wants to stay on for more Q&A. For framed storage, does carriage-mounted racking save more space than a traditional modular art rack system?
No, the modular art rack nests together, and so you've got what 4 to 6 inches between each panel. And if you do a high density system, you have to put it on at least a 15-inch wide carriage. So it's going to take up more of a footprint, and you're going to get more artwork in a modular system than you would on a high density system.
Great, thank you. I think Heather, we're probably at a pretty good stopping point. And we
I
can
think
again we can stay on longer if they'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all so much for taking your time, to our presenters for taking your time as well to present this wonderful information. So we will be getting this recording out to everyone just as soon as we run it through YouTube to get captions and everything. So be on the lookout for an email from me for the recording. If you have any other questions, again, please feel free to stay on. We will. Stay on to answer any questions that you have, but we also understand if you need to move on to the rest of your day. So again, we do appreciate you coming. I did put a survey in the chat. So, feel free to fill that out. Let us know how we did. We always appreciate the feedback. Otherwise, if you need to go, have a great day. If you would like to stay on, we'll continue with our Q&A. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Heather. So we'll just hang here for a couple minutes if you have any other questions. And I see that, by the way, Colin dropped into the chat, the Museum Storage 101 link. So if that's something you would like to download for those of you still on, go for it. So if you have any further questions, you got
So
30 seconds to drop it in Q&A.
there is one from Abriza with the Mardi Gras Museum. I
Okay,
don't know.
missed it.
This
Go
this
for it.
probably is more about less about the physical storage unit that we've been talking
Yeah.
about, and more about a conservation mount for these pieces.
Yeah.
And depending on the size of them, I think it would be a question of if they can be comfortably hung or not, depending on the material type, all of that. But a lot of things that are cape-like, we do tend to either hang, or if it's safe to box them, we box them and pad out around the shoulders, so there's not a collapsing of the shoulders. So I think that's just a question of you working with the rest of your team to identify how it can be safely stored, and then how it might fit on that storage furniture.
Great. Great answer, Erica. Thank you for that.
Okay, any
I
last
believe
questions? Any last questions?
we're
Get them
done.
in.
It looked like that was the end.
I think so. Well, again, thank you everyone for attending this extremely informative program. We thank the Patterson Pope team for sponsoring. Erica and Stephen, thank you guys for bringing your insights and expertise. And again, we'll get the recording out. And again, you can find it on our website also. So thank you all so very much for attending, and have a wonderful day.